Hi everyone, hope you're okay and having a fab day so far. If you're new here, hi, welcome, my name's Alice, and if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. It's been a hot minute since I've spoken to you and I hope you haven't missed me too much. You probably haven't missed me at all. Yeah, it's been a few weeks since I've uploaded a video on here and I'm now back into my normal routine. I put it into quotation marks because what is normal anymore? I don't know. But I'm back in my flat and I'm excited to be back here. It's been a while. Yeah, we're in October. I'm just giving you a bit of a life update here. We're in October, which feels so wrong to be saying that out loud. I don't know, it's just, I don't know. The weather's not very nice, so that's like telling me it's autumn. Mentally, I do not feel like we're in October at all. I join you here today with my coffee to talk about a subject that's, I don't want to say taboo and I don't want to say controversial, but it's not widely spoken about enough by any means, and it is eating disorders. I am going to come at this topic from my own personal point of view and my own kind of like talk about it through like my life experience. I'm in no means qualified and I'm not giving anybody advice. I'm just talking to you, at you, from my own experience and how I just want to spread awareness. I just want to open the dialogue really around eating disorders more because we don't speak about them anywhere near enough. And when we do speak about eating disorders, we don't speak about eating disorders. We tend to speak about the one or two. And I wish I would have seen somebody talk about it a little bit more openly when I was growing up because it would have saved me a good few years of torture. I think there's multiple parts to this video and today I just thought I would give you a little bit of a background on my experience with eating disorders, and then maybe we'll make them short and sweet because I know it can be a difficult topic for people, and I know personally myself I get triggered when people talk about food and their eating disorder. I just want to, like I said, open the conversation and allow people to realise that they're not alone and maybe recognise signs in what they're doing and maybe realise that they might need a bit of help. I wish I would have realised that way sooner than I did. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Make sure to drop a comment, like and subscribe, and let's go on with the video. Cheers. So I'm currently, as I'm filming this, 22 and I feel like only now can I start to talk about my eating disorder. Even now I find the whole conversation quite uncomfortable. I feel on edge and I still feel the guilt and the embarrassment, just the pure shame around the whole thing, which is why I'm partly filming these videos, I think. Is to help other people out there realise they're not alone, but also to force myself to talk about it and help myself heal, if that makes sense. I've suffered with my eating disorder for probably the past, I suffered intensely with it for probably, I don't know, let's say like 5 years, but it's been there for, it was in my life for about 10 years. And I would say only in the past year have I managed to really grab it and show it's who's boss. And even now, it's not fully gone. I control it rather than letting it control me now, if that makes any sense. I didn't know anything about eating disorders apart from I knew about anorexia and I knew what that meant, and it was kind of taught to us to worry about somebody if they'd lost a significant amount of weight rapidly, or if somebody looked very too slim, then you would be worried about them. However, when it was the other way around and someone had gained weight rapidly, all we did was mock them, and I got bullied because of my weight and because of my shape and size. It was never a kind of, the whole saying of eat less, move more was just plastered, and there was never any kind of concern or worry about anybody when they gained weight. There was never the same attributions of concern towards somebody who was overweight and there was to somebody who was severely underweight. So I grew up loving food and we're a very foodie family. We celebrate with food. I'm going to say food one more time. Food was always a big part of my life growing up. I've always said I've had big bones. I've always been on the larger side and I was okay with that. I was always kind of active and I always moved and I was just happy. I was healthy. I never had any issues. I was never poorly. Like, life was good. I think as well mum and dad probably just thought it was a bit of puppy fat and it would just like wear off, whatever. I then moved to secondary school. That's when I started getting severely like bullied. It started in secondary school and didn't stop till like the end of sixth form, which is stupid, and people are mean and kids are mean. It wasn't just the fact that I got bullied, but that contributed to my eating disorder. I'm going to tell you what my eating disorder is in a minute. I don't know why I keep dragging this out. Clearly I don't want to say it. I used to love dancing as a kid, and in France if you want to do a sporting activity you have to go to your doctor at the beginning of every school year to get yourself a little piece of paper that says, I am fit, I can do this exercise, dancing, swimming, whatever it was. You had to go to the doctors and get this little slip. So every year, that was probably the only reason I went to the doctors, was just to get this piece of paper saying that I was fit enough to do these exercises, this class, whatever. I always got my piece of paper, I was always fit and healthy. But every year the doctor would make some sort of comment about my weight. And because I was young at the time, like I was, 10, 11, the comment would never be made to me, it would always be made to mum, but I would always be within earshot. I would dread, every single year, I would dread getting on the scales because I knew that there would be some sort of comment made. Every year I would just feel so sick and dread that appointment. And it got to the point where mum made the appointment and didn't tell me we were going until like we were in the car and we were on our way there, because I would just worry about it and get so worked up the weeks and days before going, because I was made to feel so ashamed and made to feel like it was such an issue that I was carrying extra weight. And bearing in mind I was fully healthy, like I had all my health checks done and I was fine, and by this point I was nowhere near, like I had a few extra pounds, that's all I had. As years went on it got a lot worse, but at that point in time I was not, like I was absolutely fine. So the first few years he just made a few comments like, oh, does she like eating cake? Those comments like stayed with me and I was just like, okay, like, so I should feel bad about what I eat. That's what kind of like stuck with me from that. Then I think maybe it was like my second year or third year, I don't know, second or third year in secondary school, at this same doctor's appointment, he basically said to mum that I should probably go and see a nutritionist or like a dietitian. And that for me was like, okay, like he clearly thinks it's worse than I think it is, so I probably need to like, I'll just go along and go and see this woman. And I think the same year I had a checkup with the school nurse. I was so defensive and I was so worried that I took my slip with me to this nurse appointment saying that I had to go and see this dietitian woman because I know I'm overweight. You know, I was so defensive. This was now 2 medical professionals that had shamed me for my weight when I wasn't really that overweight. I was just on the larger size. But in France, kids, there's not really that many overweight people when I was growing up there. So I obviously to them was like, oh my God, off the scale. I then went with my mum to meet this woman and she was nasty. She was not very nice. She was very expensive. All she did was maybe make a food diary and she would analyse it every time I went. She'd measure me and weigh me. We paid her for that. And whilst I was going to see her, I lost weight, but I lost weight out of fear and I lost weight out of restricting myself. I lost weight because I couldn't bear the thought of going to see her and her tell me that I'd put weight on or that I'd stayed the same. There was no weight loss there that happened naturally, sustainably or nicely. It happened out of fear and it happened out of shame, and I was worried that she was going to judge me, and she just had one of those judgy looks, like you just know she was judging you. So bear in mind by this point I'm probably all of about 13. Just talking about it, I don't like it, like it's making me kind of a little bit on edge, because it's something that as I look back now I think is so sad, that this has like controlled me for so long and it's been an issue in my life for so long. But anyway, we're not crying, we're spreading the word about it so that someone hopefully doesn't suffer the same way I did. So as far as kind of eating disorders go, I'm going to talk about my one because I don't have any knowledge around any other people's eating disorders, and I wouldn't start sharing information that I don't know is true. Like I said in the beginning, I'm purely going to talk on how I lived it, and not necessarily share all the facts because I don't know all the facts. However, I do know I had BED, which is binge eating disorder, and it controlled me for so long. Like I said, I enjoyed food when I was a kid, and I probably overindulged every now and then, but that was fine. I drowned my sorrows in food. We all comfort eat every now and then, and we all think, oh, do you know what, I'm just going to eat a pizza, or I'm just going to eat a bag of chips because quite frankly can't be bothered. And that's fine. I think that's like healthy, like a healthy balance of just eating your feelings sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that. However, this is where the whole eat less, move more, or just eat less McDonald's, or just chill out eating a bit of cake. All those comments are so hurtful and so unhelpful, like people couldn't even imagine. So for me, food controlled me. Like, I didn't control what I was doing. And that might sound really stupid to some people, but so the clue is in the name, binge eating disorder. So all throughout secondary school, I had money and I had access to shops and food. Once a week I would go and I would literally just fill my school bag full of crap food basically, and I would stash it in my room, and I would stash it in my drawers, under my bed, literally anywhere I could hide food. There was food in my room. I didn't really see it as an issue when I was younger, because I was just having a nice little time, and I didn't really notice the pattern in it. I just knew that I did it. But I don't think I even knew I did it. Like, it just happened. Some of the main traits that I now know of like binge eating disorder is it's very secretive. You consume large amounts of food in small amounts of time. You're very ashamed, you're very embarrassed. You just binge and binge and binge, and you just eat your feelings away basically. I would then obviously have to like cram and hide the packaging for these sweets and treats and biscuits and crisps and whatever I'd eaten. And on a few occasions, mum's like an FBI agent, which is quite annoying, but she would always find these packaging, these like bagfuls of packets that I'd crammed in places. I remember just getting so kind of defensive and ashamed. I felt disgusting. I felt embarrassed, and I felt guilty and ashamed that mum had found all these packagings. There was no explanation to me at the time why it was happening. I don't know, I just felt disgusting. Anyway, this kind of pattern happened over and over again, and mum would find the packets. I would then have to go, I'd lie through my teeth. Sometimes I'd break down in tears, but I would just be like, oh, whatever, get on with it. It'd happen again the next week. And this probably went on for like the whole of probably secondary school. And the problem was I was obviously going to the doctors, going to the nutritionists, and I was, to everybody else's eyes, I was exercising, and I was restricting my food, but I was weighing all my food out. I was being so strict with what I was eating. Food was made to be such a massive deal, and it was made to be something that I could only eat small amounts of, but then obviously I was binging at the same time. So I wasn't seeing any results because I was restricting and over-exercising on one hand, but then binging secretively in my room at night, for example. Which obviously then leads to no weight loss because effort, and then you're outweighing it with all the binging. This carried on throughout the whole of sixth form, and it probably got progressively worse. I always had money as well, which was always an issue because I could always afford to do it. To sit here now, it makes me sick to the stomach to think about how much money I've wasted and how much money's gone down the drain because of my eating disorder. But anyway, that's not a positive thing to focus on, so we're not going to think about that now. I then moved away to uni. This is where my eating disorder hit absolute rock bottom. I was living alone, so there was no need to be sneaky and be secretive. It could just happen at any point in time. I would heavily restrict myself, so I wouldn't eat all day. I wouldn't have breakfast, I wouldn't eat lunch, and then I would absolutely eat my body weight in food at night time. Like, I go through a whole pack of pasta. If you think about that as a thought, like physically, that makes me feel sick right now, the thought of eating that amount of food. I'm not really sure how to describe the feeling, and maybe somebody out there might explain it better than I do, but the only way I can describe it is I would just sit there and eat until I felt numb. Eat until I felt like I physically couldn't anymore. The quantities of food were ridiculous. There was no nutrition in what I was eating. There was no kind of health benefit to what I was doing, which unfortunately then for me, like, it began a massive cycle because it then led to me having insomnia because I wouldn't be able to sleep because I'd be so physically feeling sick for the quantity of foods that I'd just eaten. I'd then wake up in the morning and I gained so much weight and my face was so puffy, and because of all the salt and stuff in the food. And I remember just getting up every morning and like looking at myself and just hating everything I saw. That then just fueled me even more to just carry on binging and mindlessly eating. And that sorry state probably happened for about 4 months. And I gained lots of weight over a short period of time. I was so embarrassed to eat around other people, and I don't even mean like binge, I just mean genuinely eat your dinner, anything around anybody. I would starve myself for so long and then just have a short period of time where I would just cram food. It absolutely broke my bank because it was so expensive. Fueled then my social anxiety and my depression. There was nothing to live for, there was no enjoyment, and it was a constant cycle of guilt, and I literally couldn't leave my house to do anything at one point because I was so ashamed of the way I looked and the way I was feeling about my body. I would make specific detours to make sure that I could go to the shop, just to make sure that I had that safety of knowing I had lots of food in, so that I could just sit there and binge and not worry about how I was feeling and just feel numb and push it all away. And I know to a lot of people that might sound really stupid and you can't get your head around how that feels. I honestly don't know how to explain it either. I'm not going to get upset. That time of my life is quite a blur, and when I sit back nowadays and I peek back into that kind of chapter of my life, I feel so sad and upset that that's how I felt. And that's what fuels me to make these videos, is just the thought of if I could just picture myself there one evening watching something like this, realising that it's okay, realising that I am going to be alright, and that actually I can get help, and that what I'm experiencing is normal. I remember feeling back then like I was just disgusting, and that I was just like horrible. Like, how could someone do that? How could someone eat those quantities of food? How could someone make themselves feel so bad? And this is why I think it's so important to talk about eating disorders and raise awareness around there's not just losing weight to be an eating disorder. I don't know. It's hard to talk about it, and it's hard for me to make sense out of my feelings sometimes. And as I said, this is an area of my life that I still is not 100% healed, and is not, I don't ever talk about this portion of my mental health. But today, obviously, I'm starting, and I think that's a positive thing. Whenever I talk to people about my journey and things that have happened throughout my life, I always now bring up the depression and anxiety. Like, if people ask me about it, I don't have any issues talking about it. But this is a portion of me that I've never really opened up about, and I've never been open and honest. I think that's why I'm struggling to say this right now, is because I don't know who in my life knows 100% what I'm saying right now. Like, I don't think I've really opened up to anybody about this 100%, if that makes sense. Like I've said in previous videos, that depression and anxiety is not something that I'm ever gonna like 100% heal from. It's just something that you learn to live with. I think this is very much the same, and it's not something that I'm 18% healed from my binge eating disorder, in the respect of, like I opened this video, I think I said it earlier, I control it rather than it controlling me. I'm so much more aware of what's going on. I don't know, I'm kinder to myself if it happens. It hardly ever happens, but if it does, I just let it happen. Or I can control myself better, or I find different ways of coping. And to be honest as well, like living with Charlie, my brother, the opportunities are just not there, or it's 10 times more difficult. I think as well, I made a conscious decision when I moved into this flat to make my bedroom a zen zone, and to make it a space where I felt safe, and make it a space where I felt relaxed and I felt at peace. And I haven't, my room was my space before where everything happened. I don't mean to be getting upset, but my room before was my area of my kind of life where I would binge, I would cry, I would feel disgusting, I would feel ashamed of myself. I didn't say it to myself, but I just kind of made a silent pact with myself that when I moved into this flat, none of that would happen. I don't want to feel ashamed. I don't want to feel embarrassed. I don't want to feel guilty. I'm happy about that, and that for me is sign of progress and sign of healing. That's not happened once in my room here. I've not actively binged in a very long time. Like I've not binged this year. I don't think I have. For me to be able to say that at one point, like I couldn't go 2 days without binging. I couldn't go even a day. And then I'd be able to go a week, and then it'd happen, and then that set me back 5-10 paces behind, because I was like, what is the point? But for me to find different ways of healing and different ways of managing my feelings, I think for me, do I have a healthy relationship with food? I wouldn't say 100%. I don't struggle with the binging now. I struggle with the feeling guilty for what I've eaten a lot. That is something that I try and work on daily. I eat well, I eat healthy, and I cook myself great meals, and I look after myself, and I eat well balanced and nutritious meals. But if I have a pizza, I'll feel bad about that pizza. And that's why I say I'm still not 100% there, because there's still the guilt of, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that, or because of the way I viewed myself and my weight, and because of what I got told as I was growing up by my doctor and whatever, that just like constantly puts that into my mind, and I try so hard to battle that, because that's not healthy. That is not healthy. If you want to eat a pizza, eat a damn pizza. It's balanced. It's all about a well-balanced diet, and it's about moderation. And I truly believe that if you restrict, personally for some people that might work well, but I don't think restricting for anyone really is the answer. I think it's all about balance and fueling your body and your mind with what works for you. You only figure that out by trying. I think, like I said to start with, I'm gonna have to film more videos where I kind of give you maybe more like tips in ways I cope, because today was more just like a video to tell you what my eating disorder is and how it's affected me so far. I'm happy I've opened up, I'm happy I've shared it, and hopefully I can make a decent video out of what I've said. To anybody who is struggling with an eating disorder, please know you're not alone, and please ask for help. Please know you're so worthy. You're so valuable. Don't let anybody or anyone tell you that you're not. And your body's beautiful, your body's amazing. Focus on what your body does for you, what it does for you on a daily basis, how it carries you through life and your daily tasks, rather than punishing it, not liking it because you don't fit into society's standards, or you don't look like the model that's been photoshopped on the front of magazines and billboards. We don't have an airbrush filter on real life, and I think the problem with social media and society as a whole, perfection is what people strive for, and it's not possible. People strive to look like models, and people that aren't, I'm not going to say aren't real, but that's not real life. We need to celebrate our bodies. We need to celebrate looking like real women and real men. Things need to change, and I hope that I can help change things in my own little way. So I think I'm going to leave this video here. I've nearly cried on multiple occasions, so let's leave that there before I full on squawk. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope it might have been maybe a little bit of an eye-opener for some people, and I hope maybe it's just helped a few people realise that they're okay and they're not alone. I'm going to leave that here, and I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I will see you guys very soon in my next video. Salut!